Okay. Hello, hello. Right, I think I'm all sorted. Who we got? Jersey. Yeah, Jersey was here early. Psycat and Richard. Thanks for joining. What's been going on? How's your week been? I was going to change the banners and put them back on again, but I haven't had time, so I'll have to do that for next week. All right. What is happening in the world of magic? Oh, incidentally, I'm going to be that whole the 2 extra lives I'm going to add during the week. I'm going to start that date Tuesday the 14th. It'll be a Tuesday and a Thursday. And as I said, they're not going to be long, 20 minutes maybe. Um, and it's just going to be me chatting, giving some news on I keep forgetting the bloody name of the first one. It's just about general news in the community. Brew and Babble. That was it. Brew and Babble. And then Thursday will be just a covering someone in history or something to do with folk witchcraft. Like a topic like moon water. I'm going to actually do that one early on this month. So yeah, look out for those. Those should be quite fun. All right, let's see. Josie said hoping to get more gigs soon. We've been in a drought lately. I hope you do too as well. That'll be good. Good if you could. Psycat. Here we go. Do you by any chance Overlord? I've got Overlord today. Oh my God. Doctor as well. Now I'm a doc. Oh, don't do that to me. That's got some bad memories. Um, here are some candies for you. Thank you very much. I do appreciate the candies. Jersey, I should do some rituals to manifest more gigs. Yes, you definitely should. And Turner's here. Hello, Turner. I'm glad you could join. All right. Uh, check here. I can keep an eye on the couch. There we go. Okay. What does everyone want to chat about today? What's going on? What's happening? Apart from what I mentioned last week, nothing new again. So Kasim's here. Hello, Kasim. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we should have a lively discussion against this again this week, I think. If there's any specific topics that you want me to talk about, um, with the Hedge and History live, just let me know. As I said, it's going to focus around folk witchcraft and people in history, things like that, who kind of influenced our modern witchcraft today, that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that I can't break away from it here and there. But what I'm trying to do is kind of like, there's a lot of practices that people kind of do nowadays that have history and they've completely missed the plot somewhere along the line. And I kind of want to just bring the history part back and how things were actually practiced as opposed to what people are doing now. Maybe it'll influence the practice itself and help people to actually boost what they're doing. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Don't really know how it's going to go, but we'll find out. Cthulhu's here. Hello. Thanks for joining. Jersey, I've been hearing lately about how magic should always be paired with action. Can we talk about that? Yeah, we definitely can. Um, paired with action in what sense, though? Just let me know. Are we talking about action as in it's not just creative visualization? We need to do something like cast a circle, create a talisman, whatever it is, or we're talking about action as in do the magic and follow it up with a physical act. Such as the typical example, you do a spell working to get a job, you then therefore have to then send your CV out, that kind of action. Which one, what are you talking about exactly there? Let me know, and we can carry on with that. Psycat says, how's Mercury retrograde been so far? It's okay. It's not great. This is kind of a rough one. Um, Communication wise, I seem to be okay, so that's a good sign. But so how's everybody else handling this Mercury retrograde? Um, all right, because Sims asked, am I right in thinking that there are both evil angels and evil demons, along with good angels and good demons? I wouldn't particularly say that, no. Or is it a lot more nuanced? It is a lot more nuanced. The idea of evil and good, I would eliminate completely. There are angels and there are demons. Angels do a specific thing, demons do a specific thing. They don't do the same thing. Kind of like if you look within a company, you have your laborers and you have your top management. Okay, so they don't do the same thing, but they all are part of the same company, allowing the company to function. Okay, but evil and good, I would completely eliminate. You get your benevolent and you get your malevolent. It doesn't mean that they're good or evil. They're both are necessary. Just as the example I like to always use here is nature and a forest. So a forest is a beautiful thing. It has plants and trees and flowers and birds and animals and all sorts of things. And then all of a sudden, this raging forest fire comes through and totally decimates and wipes everything out. And we think, oh no, the fire was bad. No, it wasn't. It was necessary. It's part of the death and rebirth process that everything goes through. So after the fire's gone through and decimated everything, killed loads and loads and loads of animals and insects and an entire ecosystem, then it can flourish again. It can grow back again. So it's not to do with bad and good or evil and good. It's just got to do with they have a particular nature, they have a particular job, and that's what they're doing. Um, all right, so yeah, I think that answers that. Alexis, how are you doing? This is Alexis one. I'm doing good. Not doing too bad at all. Hope you're doing well. Kasuda, what's your thoughts on family curses? I don't really. This is actually an area that I kind of like. I don't think I've really looked into enough, to be honest with you. And honestly, it's something that only came up in the past several years for me that kind of, people were talking about these family curses or ancestral curses, things like that. But they are obviously they exist, they're there, we see them, and usually it's because an ancestor somewhere along the line did something bad, and that kind of follows through. But it doesn't mean that somebody cursed them. It just means that it has a negative impact on the family, the family following of that particular person. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one for me, at least. I do need to look into that more and get a better grip on it, to be honest with you. Fallen Angel, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Question to you: who is God? And he is the one who created demons and angels, far away from Christian perspective. So the idea of uh, God, the big thing I refer to as being omnil, which sort of translates to the all know thing. And this really is it's a bit of a it's not an entity, an entity that we kind of like think of in terms of angels, demons, gods, etc. This is an all-encompassing power which is all of those things, including us and trees and flowers and plants and birds and fish and all sort everything that could possibly exist, but also does not exist. And what I mean by that, so you have the all and the nothing part. So the all part is everything that we can perceive, that we can categorize, that we can imagine, that we can form into some kind of visualization, that we can define in some particular way. And then everything beyond that, the nothing. And these are all things that cannot be categorized or defined or perceived, but they still exist. It's the space that exists between the subatomic particles within an atom. Um, it's nothing. There's nothing there. It is nothing. Some quantum physicists came to the conclusion that maybe it's just thought, but really it's just nothing. And that is something that exists, but it is something, it's not anything you can categorize. As soon as you categorize something, or as soon as you define something, it comes into the all aspect, the little island that we form that is our our universe, our cosmos, our personal universe. But that's when other people are talking about the big God, that's what I'm talking about. I call it the Omnil. And the Omnil, the term comes from William G. Gray. He speaks about Omnil in some of his books. I don't remember specifically Kabbalistic concepts. He speaks about the Omnil in there, and I kind of like the term, and I thought it made sense, makes sense for me, so that's why I use it. But yeah, that therefore is everything and nothing. So it's everything that exists and everything in between. Um, Sorry, I got itchy nose. Jersey, I guess more than just basic ritual and visualization, the context, it sounded like they were talking about it was helping it manifest, I suppose. Um, yeah, so it sounds like it's probably the idea of, you do a spell working and you have all of these elements that go into a spell working. Obviously, what that is going to differ depending on what you're actually doing. Um, but then, right, I'm just going back to your previous question. I've been hearing lately about how magic should always be paired with action. I would actually say, because usually when people talk about the magic should be paired with action, it usually is that physical thing that we need to do. Because we can't just expect the magic to, you know, pull stuff out of thin air. We have to do physical things, and I really think that is what they're talking about there. And that's, yeah, I mean, if that is what they're talking about, that is absolutely necessary. Um, because as I said, you can't expect the magic just to do all of the work for you. I don't know. That seems to be what they're talking about. But if there's anything else there that I'm missing, just give me just put it in the chat. Because other than that, I mean, I'm trying to think of basic ritual and visualization. The context, it sounded like they were talking about it was helping it manifest. So I mean, apart from that, it would be follow-up workings is all I can really think of. So you do your initial spell working, and then you do things to follow up, just to kind of keep it going, give it a bit of a boost every now and again, and and then finally bring it into manifestation. I don't think that's entirely necessary. Again, depending on what you're doing, what you're trying to manifest, the method you're using, all of that stuff, that's probably going to differ. But it's not always necessary because the initial spell working should be the thing that brings it into manifestation. So, yeah, I think I've exhausted my brain on that one. I can't think of anything else that they could be particularly referring to. Right, so Chiara, hello. Thanks for joining. Um, I think you're new here, aren't you? I haven't seen that handle before. Um, let's do the for everybody who's new here thing. This is just a Covenstead. It's for everybody just to get together, all witches just to get together and just chat about whatever you want to chat about. No specific topic in mind. Just throw it in the chat there, and we'll discuss it. Psycat family curses are very real. We're going through it over decades. Yeah, it is. As I said, it's more kind of like I think what a lot of people think about when they think of family curses is that somebody in the past cursed an ancestor, which continued through. I don't think that's always the case, but I think it's more of something that one of the ancestors did, which caused a negative ripple to move through the ancestral line. Um, and therefore, when it gets to you, you kind of have to rectify it. So do things like I'm probably one of the best examples because I'm a white European dude, um, and there's been a lot of racism, a lot of colonialization, um, patriarchy, etc., 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 that follows my particular race. And therefore, it's my job in this lifetime to correct anything that my family may have done in that regard. Fortunately, like my father was, I mean, I can't say he was perfect. I think he was perfect, but I can't say he was because nobody's perfect. But he was one of the best people I have ever known and will ever know. Um, I mean, growing up, he was my hero. He was accepting of everybody. One of the biggest lessons he ever taught me when I was a little kid was that nobody is more important than me, and I am no more important than anybody else, including the Queen. He used to add that little bit. So yeah, he was a very accepting person. He loved everybody. So yeah, I think I came from a very good background. My grand, I think it was my grandfather or my great grandfather. Um, From my father's side, I believe. I can't remember exactly. I know there was a lot of people that came over from Europe to Africa and South Africa specifically. I think it was the Boer War. I'm not entirely sure, but it was one of the wars, and a lot of them refused to actually fight, and they got put in jail. And my ancestor was one of those people who apparently refused and got put in jail. Um, so the impact that had was actually very interesting because I had a Zulu friend years and years ago who actually got a communication from his ancestors because he used to carry on his family ancestral Zulu rituals and spiritual aspects and practices and whatnot. And he got a communication from his ancestors one day. He came into work and one morning he was like, my ancestors told me that they accept you because your whatever great grandfather, whatever it is, was kind to them. So I was like, okay, thank you, that's cool, I like that. So that had a very positive impact, but a lot of people don't get that. So, for me, that's kind of like what we're talking about in reference to family curses. Um, I was very lucky. Anyway, moving on. Alexis, Akasim, I'd say good or bad, it's moral judgment by humans, but yes, one could categorize them based on their personal feeling experience, if it helps. Yeah, you could do. You also said, I wonder about praying to God or source. Somehow it's more difficult for me to relate, reach, and prefer a more precise individual energy. Yeah, what we can actually do in this regard is I don't think there's any reason why we would want to actually pray to or try to contact source. But at the same time, the main goal for a lot of people, no, I wouldn't say for everybody, but a lot of people, is to unite with that divine aspect, right? Um, to come into communion with it, which means you come into communion and union with everything, with all things. That's kind of like the main goal for a lot of people. I was going somewhere with this. Hold on. So there is something I remember when I was going through Hinduism, is that um, you don't have to contact all of the gods and goddesses. You can focus on one of them, like Shiva or Lakshmi or Ganesha or whoever it is, right? You can just focus on one of them, and you are praying to all of them at the same time. It's in that regard, it's a very pantheistic kind of approach. And I think this is a similar thing here. You know, you can pray to your gods and goddesses, or your angels, your demons, or whatever like kind of forms your own personal pantheon, and you are praying to all of them because everything is connected. Everything does form that one big whole, that one big omnil, the all-know thing, and we're all part of it and we're all connected. So just by praying to one, you are praying to the entirety of everything. You could, that's why we, kind of like say, treat yourself well because then you're treating everybody well, or treat other people well because you're treating the entire cosmos well. As soon as you do something bad, you are treating yourself bad, because everything's connected. So, kind of, if you view it in that way, that's the way you would see it. Fallen Angel said agree. Cthulhu, why does the Golden Dawn use Judaism for their ritual work? Example like the Lesser Banishing ritual. So the Golden Dawn is Hermetic Kabbalah, which arose out of Christian Kabbalah, which arose out of Judaic Kabbalah. That should give you a pretty good idea of why. It's all because it's Semitic Kabbalah, which got appropriated along the way. And when we look into Hermeticism, it's got a lot of it's got lots of roots in Judaism, Egyptian theologies, and all such things. All that part of the Middle Eastern area, all those aspects. Which I think practically everything comes out of the Middle East, to be honest with you. Um, you even going to modern demonology, it's the pantheon that exists is within the Middle East. Um, we have Christianity, which everybody thinks is, well, not everybody, but so many people think is like a white religion. It came from the Middle East. Um, we have Hermeticism came from the Middle East. Um, everything, I think everything to do that revolves around Western mystery traditions comes from the Middle East. Um, comes from that because it comes from that Hermetic footing. It comes from that basis, that foundation, which was Hermeticism, which kind of grew out of or grew into Freemasonry. So Rosicrucianism as well was also in there long before, long before Blavatsky came along with racist ideals and started bringing theosophy and things like that. But yeah, it all came out of that kind of general area. So, which is kind of weird actually, if you think about it, because the Western mystery tradition revolves around the European um, old white fart person. Um, you know, the ceremonial magicians and their lofty towers and all things like that. And we already had a culture available to us. We didn't need to kind of introduce this whole thing, but it migrated and came across and infiltrated into everything else that we had. Um, so that's a bit weird. History's weird. What can we say? Right. Where am I? I'm rattling on and rambling away. Alexis, could you tell us about invoking or merging a spirit energy to vessels, items to wear and carry with us? Uh, can you act as, can they act as portals or strengthen connection with said spirit? I can. Sorry, I just want to make the text a bit bigger because I'm getting old and all that crap. Um, I'm actually doing a, if anybody is interested in this particular topic, I am actually doing a workshop next weekend, and nobody's signed up for it yet. Um, so I might have to skip it anyway. But if anybody does, we're going to do it. For this particular thing, it's the art of the spirit vessel. You can grab it on my website if you want to get involved in that. So we actually create a spirit vessel, a spirit box, for Nakiel, the intelligence of the sun. Um, so in this case, what your questions were, could you tell us about invoking or merging a spirit energy to vessels, items to wear and carry? So this this actually has a very long history, going all the way back to Africa with the fetish. Um, it's in essence, it's kind of making a charm. So you take an object, you draw down the power of the entity that you want to work with. You want that energy to, you want your own energy to resonate with that particular energy, right? So you draw that down and you put it into the object, and the object itself acts like a little house. Um, and if you're making a spirit box, which is my favorite thing to do, you can put items in to anchor between here and the other world. You can put an item in as an offering. You can put a petition paper in to ask for particular things. You can make prayers to it. You kind of, it's a connection point. It's a thing where the energy kind of focuses and concentrates. So instead of being dispersed everywhere, it kind of focuses into this one point, which is the item you're using as the spirit vessel. And that's where everything is focused, and you then interact with it in that manner. All right. Can they act as portals or strengthen connection with said spirit? Yes, exactly. Um, Now, one thing to bear in mind, it's not a case of you're taking that spirit and you're trapping it into an object. A lot of people think that's what it is, and I've seen people sell objects for thousands of dollars on Etsy and other places where they say they have trapped a jinn or trapped a god into an item. No, you're not doing that. Um, and they haven't done it either. They're just scamming everybody. What it is it's a connection. So you have this physical world. I don't like to explain this in a separatist kind of idea, but it's easier to explain. So you have this physical world. You have their astral world. Let's call it that. Their world, their other world. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to connect to them in their world here, right? So you've got them, their world, and you've got this world, and you kind of like bringing those together so that you have a point where they interact together, and that point is the vessel, and then you can the energy goes backwards and forwards. Okay, so you're not trapping the spirit, you are anchoring the energy of the spirit, the essence of the spirit into the vessel. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Um, Psycatch, who are a hero to many out there, including me. Thank you for jumping. You talk about me again. Thank you for more candies. I do appreciate it. I'm gonna have bad teeth though, but I've already got bad teeth. Actually, drink my coffee. Alexis, love hearing about your family and ancestors. Inspiring. Thank you. Um, oh, where am I? I've lost my place again. Fallen angel. Imagine a life where only humans exist, no animals or insects in the planet. Oh, that would be horrible. That would really be horrible. In fact, to say the truth, that wouldn't be possible because I don't think we'd exist without animals and insects. Um, the ecosystem would just fail. But yeah, no, that would be horrible. I'd hate that. I like animals. I think most animals are better than most humans. Alexis, what you said about contacting one god but connecting to all, I do remember something similar was conveyed to me by Archangel and Egyptian deity, but I didn't understand it at that time. Yeah, it's kind of like one of those mysteries that everything is connected. So if you if you throw plastic into the sea, which then goes on to harm a fish, you are essentially harming yourself because it's all connected. That kind of thing. Elizabeth, hello, hello. Ages ago that I haven't been in your channel. I'm so glad of these coincidences. I'm glad you're here. It's always nice to have new people or people I haven't seen in a very long time. Um, right. If I don't know if you've been to the to Covenstead before, it's just got any questions, just ask away. Ask whatever you need to. Right, Kasim, what is your opinion about people saying demons hate us? I think some people have excuse me, excuse me, tickle. I think some people have fallen into the Christian trap of belief, yet I read some UPGs that apparently the goetic spirits do hate humans. Yeah, I agree with that. So, first of all, there's going to be some which just don't like humans outright. I mean, if you're talking about the goetic spirits and a lot of what we refer to as being demons, we're talking about jinn. Um, and there are many, many, many jinn and fae that hate humans, cannot stand them, want them to die, think they should be wiped off the face of the earth. Yeah, that's because they were treated badly, because they just don't like humans at all. Then you've got some who might like humans, like the goetic spirits, but don't like all humans. I don't like all humans, so why should they like all humans? There's just some people that shouldn't be working with these particular spirits, you know? Um, so yeah, there's a whole lot of um, things within this that you have to consider. It's not straightforward, but I will say that you do get the idea that because they are demons, they are hateful towards humans. They just want to see us fail. They want to trick us, and that is a Christian worldview, which kind of like encompasses all demons. I would say that's not true at all. Um, but you've got to consider that they're spirits. They have their own thoughts, they have their own desires, and they're not going to like everybody. Really, what it boils down to. Richard said, "No bees, no humans." Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think we figured that out when we started losing all the bees. Alexis too. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining. I think the manga and anime Yu-Gi-Oh includes many occult messages like one, summoning of demons, two, magical objects which possess the host with the spirit inhabiting them, and three, can be read like tarot. Yeah, I'm not into gaming, manga, anime, etc., etc., etc. myself, but obviously I've come across it. And one of the things that I do find interesting is that, and it's happening more and more, you kind of like go to research. a particular spirit, and it's just game stuff comes up over and over, just tons and tons and tons of information regarding games. So they've kind of taken a huge amount of occultism and added it to their gaming and their anime and their manga and everything else. Um, and I'm not going to say all of it is correct. There are some which have some games and anime that do get a lot of it right. Some of them get a lot of it wrong. So, and that I think that's where the danger comes in, because then a lot of people kind of like they might go and research something from a game, and they find that it's correct, and then they think, oh well, everything in the game must be correct, and that leads them down a very tricky, bad road. Um, Fallen Angel, I totally agree that animals are better than most humans. Yeah. I actually, I'm gonna, my daughter got me to watch, it's on Prime. It's called The Sheep Detective. So I watched that today. You gotta watch it. It is absolutely, it's so delightful. It's beautiful to watch. But the ideologies of the sheep is just amazing. And the way there's this conversation between three sheep as they're walking past the church, because one of them asks, "What's that?" And the kind of like more knowledgeable sheep kind of explains what God is. It's just you have to go and watch it because it's brilliant. It really is. But it's a wonderful. It's one of those enlightening, just kind of like happy. That's got some sad moments. You cry and take your tissues with you. But it's a fun movie. So go and watch that. Really do recommend it. Um, Psycat, 17 people watching. I hope we get 17 likes as well. Oh, yes, thank you. Also, forget about that stuff. Um, Oops, hang on, skipped. Richard, Fallen Angel definitely put animals over humans. I think most of us do. That's why we came to the craft. Alexis, Alexis 1 and Alexis 2, indeed, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Harry Potter, all those are considered devil's works by devoted Christians. Oh, those Christians are stupid assholes. They'll consider anything which isn't about God to be the devil's work. Um, Fallen Angel, that anime and game had a huge influence for me to choose a cultism path, specifically the archetype of Aleister Crowley cards called Invoked. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of. I do, yeah, I can see that gaming would be like a gateway, um, which is great. Love it. Love it. As long as, you do, as like Fallen Angel has been doing, is, you know, doing the proper research and not just like uh, picking it up and thinking that it's the Bible, and it gives you all the answers. You seriously got to do all the research and everything else. Psycat could be an insightful discussion. Which Goetic spirit hates humans and who likes humans? And who like humans? Um, Knowing this will help practitioners to approach those who like humans. Well, specifically, if you're talking about the spirits from the Ars Goetia, can't really say. As I said, you might have. Let's just take one from random. Bua. All right. So I go to Bua and I go and have a conversation, and we have a fantastic time. And then my neighbor goes to Bua, and Bua kind of smacks him over the head and tells him to sod off and go away. I don't want to talk to you. Because she doesn't like that particular person. It's not which demons hate humans in this regard, it's just which humans and demons gel together and which ones don't. It might just be a conflict of energy. Um, we each have our own energies vibrate at a particular frequency. And if I meet somebody, I might like them or I might dislike them. And it's the same with spirits, and that dislike is probably because we have a bit of a clash. Our energies don't kind of gel together, and you kind of pick that up immediately. And it's the same with spirits. Spirit comes along, you trying to work with it, but your energies don't mix, they clash, and it's just a negative response. And that's really what it is. There's no kind of like Beulah likes humans and C3 doesn't like humans, and all of this stuff. It's an individual process, really. Turner, I watched your vampire video. If someone were to skim some energy off the top of a crowded place, wouldn't the quality of the energy be a mixed bag? Would you recommend doing such a thing? So, if you're doing vampiric magic, one of the things you need to learn is how to transmute the energy. So it doesn't matter where the energy comes from, you change it into what you need it to be. It's an alchemical process, really. So, yeah, you're scraping off a whole lot of energy from a crowd of people, which is a whole lot of different types of energy. But you take that and you form it into something you want to use it or want it to be, and then you use it for whatever you need to use it for, whether it's taking it into yourself, giving it to somebody else for healing, whatever it is. But it's that transmutation process that you need to be aware of and practice. Yeah. Alexis one at Psycat. If they are hardly popular and no one seems to work with them, maybe this is one sign they don't care much about humans. There's that as well. Yeah. You'll probably get a lot of Jin, for example, that nobody's heard of because they don't want to work with humans. So they kind of stay off the radar, you know. Because I was reading about Samael last night. It seems that whole concept of the devil doing evil is just Christian belief. Samael is basically Hades and the prosecutor, which means that our whole notion of good and evil is turned on its head. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is why I say, I mean, we can even go a step further, right? So we're often talking about astral parasites and what we do to keep ourselves clean of astral parasites. That doesn't mean that astral parasites are evil. It doesn't mean that they are bad, that they are, well, they are negative, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't exist. They have to exist. They're part of our entire ecosystem, just like physical parasites are part of the ecosystem. They have to exist in order to do whatever parasites do to continue that whole process of the ecosystem. So there's going to be parasites all the time. We pick them up all the time, but it's just something that we learn to clean, like we do physically. We physically clean ourselves, therefore we need to energetically clean ourselves. And it's just part of normal processes. But the idea of a spirit or an angel or a god, whatever, being evil or good is kind of nonsense. They have a nature, they have a particular job to do. And sometimes it's destructive and sometimes it's creative. The ones that have a destructive job to do doesn't make them bad or evil. It just that's their job. That's their nature. That's what they're here for. And we need that, you know? As I said, just like nature has its creative and destructive processes, it has to have both in order to exist. Otherwise, it's not going to exist. So, yeah, accept it for what it is. And, all of the particular goetic spirits, as an example, that we work with, some of them have a destructive nature. If you don't want that in your life, don't work with them. If you do want it in your life and it's something specific that you need because of whatever you're going through or whatever you're trying to achieve and accomplish, then you work with them. But, it doesn't make it evil, it just makes it necessary. Okay, going on to Turner. I'm pretty sure I used to unknowingly take energy from random people when I was young. When I realised it, I had a concerted made a concerted effort to stop. Yeah, I think we all do it, and you'll find that most of the people who are vampiric and unknowingly do it are the sick and the elderly, um, and very much the elderly. I mean, you go to an old age home, if you go there like once a week, for instance, and every week you leave there and you're feeling drained, it's because they're elderly and they need an extra boost of energy in order to, carry on through their day. Um, so you need to find a way to deal with that. Just out of interest, if anybody does deal with the elderly on a regular basis, what you might want to do is make a charm or an amulet or something. And what you can do is kind of treat it like a battery. So throughout the week, you can just charge it up, you know, throughout the week. Just give it a little bit of energy, excess energy that you kind of would otherwise just um, um, you know, brush off. You can just put it into the charm, into this battery, just fill it up, charge it up, and then when you go to the elderly, they can then latch onto that and drain that battery instead of you. Um, and then again, the rest of the week you charge up the battery, you go, it gets drained, but it gives them something and it doesn't drain you at the same time. So just find ways to get around it. But yeah, they're usually the people who do it unknowingly. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of who we are. Everything in everything there's always an energy exchange of some sort. When we meet somebody, there's an instant energy exchange. We pass power backwards and forwards from person to person, and that's just meeting a person. That's just saying hello. In fact, you don't even need to say hello. And this is why I think so. I'm going to ramble because there's no more questions, so I'm just going to ramble. Um, this is one of the biggest problems with social media is that we scroll through, we doom scroll, all right? And as we're scrolling through, we're meeting new people. One, two, three, four, and you've gone through a scroll for like 5 minutes and you've met like I don't know 100 people. You haven't said hello to them, you haven't formally introduced yourself, but you've seen them, you've connected with them, you've experienced a memory of theirs, experienced something that they've experienced, and you've connected with them. It might not be a strong connection, it might be temporary, but you have still connected with them. Does that mean that because you'll never see them again, that the energy filaments which you've attached to them and they've attached to you just suddenly disappear? I don't think so. And this is why we become more and more drained. We're not meant to have that extensive amount of stimuli on a daily basis. Our brains cannot handle it. It wasn't made for that. And why social media can be a bad thing. At the same time, it's a fucking brilliant thing. We wouldn't be chatting here if it wasn't for social media. Um, you know, so you just gotta look for the balances in everything. All right, I'm gonna stop rambling now and wait for the next question and drink my coffee in the meantime. Turner, where does all the energy go in such exchanges online? I don't think it goes anywhere. As I say, so in this particular regard, I take the approach that I learned from the books of Carlos Castaneda. I always try and say that in the proper Spanish way, and I always get it wrong. What he um, what he kind of speaks about is, well, what Don Juan speaks about is when we meet somebody or we go to a new place, we instantly connect energetically, right? And it's this filaments, thousands of filaments that kind of like project to that person and attach to that person, and they do the same thing. Okay, so thousands of filaments of energy attached to us. and we're passing power back and forth the whole time. Okay, that doesn't disappear. That stays for a lifetime in that particular ideology of the Toltec warrior path, right? Other traditions might say it does, but this is my own personal understanding and experience, right? So, explaining it from that perspective, that stays for a lifetime. This is why within the Toltec warrior practice, you have a particular practice called recapitulation. And recapitulation is a very specific format that you push you detach the person's elemental energetic filaments. You detach them from you and you give them back to the person, and you take yours back from them. So you take your power back and you give their power back, and you disconnect energetically from them. All right. Cord cutting does a very similar thing, and a proper cord cutting, not a candles and a string, an actual cord cutting where you are cutting the cord, cutting the actual energy filament, the actual energetic connection, the cord which connects the two of you. So that does the same thing. In that case, what you're doing is cutting it, and it kind of springs back, and it retreats back on both sides. Slightly different idea of what the energy filaments are, but same concept at the end of the day, really. So yeah, that's kind of how I experience and see it. Uh, well, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. All right. Elizabeth, is it possible to perform transfer magic? In other words, can you transfer a circumstance from one person to another? You also said in radionics there are symbols that transfer the properties of plants or medicines to a specific person. Yeah, I would say so. So I'm just going to get a grasp on the actual how you're viewing the question, because you said circumstance, and that kind of brings to mind the idea that we can transfer karma from one person to another, which no, it's a tricky one that is. Uh, can you elaborate a bit more on this so I can give you a proper question? What do you mean by transferring a circumstance from one person to another? If you wouldn't mind. Oh, Michael's here. Hello, Michael. Um, the whole of USA is here. Yay. Has a demon ever shared forbidden knowledge with you that you later regret knowing? Teaching that you wish you did not know? I don't recall anything of that nature, no. I've had humans give me forbidden knowledge. Never regretted it later. I suppose I mean, we could call humans demons. So if you want to stretch that definition a bit, yeah, sure. But no, I don't think any spirits have given me any particular. Well, I guess forbidden knowledge. I mean, I've got particular secrets that spirits have told me because they're secrets because I'm not allowed to share it with anybody else. Names and things like that. Um, but yeah, don't never regretted any of it. I wouldn't regret any teaching. All right. Wait for. Anybody else to drop something into the comments there? Just waiting for Elizabeth to come back as well. All right, Turner, regarding recapitulation, as you said, sounds like an important skill to have. Can you point me in the direction of more knowledgeable about it? Hang on, let me try and find. There's a fantastic article that I always go to. And I'm sure I saved it somewhere, and I can't remember where I saved it. Let's just look at it. Bloody hell, recapitulation. There you go. I'll see if I can find it now. Elizabeth, it's something like karmic justice when someone goes through life doing bad things and seems to get away with it. That's the kind of situation I'm referring to, administering divine justice. Yeah, it is a very tricky one, that. I have heard people say that you can transfer, but personally, I don't think you can. Um, I think the whole idea of people doing bad things and getting away with it doesn't mean they get away with it. It comes up catches up with them eventually. And it might be a few lifetimes from now. Um, but yeah, no, it is a very tricky one, that, actually, to tell you the truth. I don't think you can. I don't think you can transfer that kind of thing, karma, from one person to another. What can happen is that a person can take on another person's karma, and that usually happens within teaching. Um, for instance, me as a teacher of magic, I'm going to have students who screw up left, right, and center, and they need to screw up left, right, and center. But at the same time, because they're learning under my supervision, I'm the one who takes on that karma from those actions. They don't take that on because they're learning, and they're learning because I told them to learn. So I take on that karma. Um, but if somebody has a karma, I don't think that can be transferred to somebody else as like a package or something like that. To my understanding, anyway. Um, Hi James, thanks for joining. Before I get to you, I just want to look for this article that I usually go to. It's this one, Susan Gregg. I like this article because it explains recapitulation and it also gives the breathing technique. Just make sure I got the right one. Yeah, it's got the inhalation and exhalation breath. So Turner, here it is. Great article, that. Right, James, morning. Been working and lurking. Good stuff. Rather than filaments or tendrils, I have a tendency to think in terms of spheres of influence, overlapping, intermingling energies, subtly influencing, resonating. Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, coming back to the Toltec warrior path and Castaneda and Don Juan Matus, etc., etc., um, it's something I kind of grasp, but I still need a better grasp of it. But the idea of the rings of power. So, with our first ring of power, what happens is everybody's ring of power overlaps, okay? And this is where we get consensual reality from, where how we experience the world as we all do, because we all agree to see it a particular way. So, somebody who has immense power through gaining power, regaining power through recapitulation and all such kind of exercise and practices, they can actually influence other people's first ring of power and make things appear differently to what they should be. There's a great story in one of the books where Don Juan, I think they're sitting in the desert somewhere, and she all of a sudden changes into a clown in the middle of the desert, and Castaneda can't figure out why he all of a sudden looks like a clown, something along those lines. It's because he had the enough power to actually change everybody else's first ring of power. Which yeah, very similar to what you're talking about there, the spheres of influence, which kind of overlap and intermingle. Yeah. Um, so I definitely think there's something to that. It makes sense as well. Right. Michael, are there any demons that you would not recommend working with or had any personal negative experiences? Horrors. That would be, that's always the one I don't recommend. But a lot of people work with Horus and they have a very positive outcome. It's just, I had a very negative experience with Horus. I don't really like talking about it, but I have spoken about it before on the channel, so I guess there's no harm. Um, but at the same time, it was probably my own stupidity, to be honest with you. I just didn't give a good enough offering. What happened was, did the particular work. Now, at the time, we had, I think, yeah, we had three female cats that we hadn't had spayed, and they all fell pregnant at the same time. So we had crap load of kittens, right? And this is horrific. Okay, I'm actually not going to tell you because it's horrific. It really is a horrific story, and a lot of people are going to be horrified by it, and it's probably going to cause some trauma. I'm not actually going to talk about it. Let me just say that it was a really disgusting, horrible, horrific experience, um, and I didn't like it, and I will never ever work with horrors again. Okay, just leave it at that. Sorry. But are there any others? I don't think so. There's Asmodeus I don't really like to work with. Um, I find him to be a bit of a brat. He's just too snooty. But at the same time, he has a particular uh, nature that is necessary for some people. Yeah. Turner, the demon you didn't want to Horus. It's It actually, some people. I'm gonna put the spelling of the name in the text here. Um, some people actually do say that it is the Egyptian god Horus, Horus. Um, Another name, which I also considered another aspect of the particular spirit, is Flerius, which we find in the direction of fire, the element as the elemental king of fire within modern demonology. But I do feel that's a different face, a different mask of this particular spirit. This particular Goetic spirit is yeah, I don't like him. Don't like him. He knows it. He knows what he did. Mm. Right. Moving right along. This is where I need more questions. Well, now that I've got everybody here, let's just reiterate what's happening on the channel on the 14th. So as I mentioned previously last week, I'm going to be adding two more lives. There's going to be Brew and Babble. It's kind of like news. I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see. So it's going to be news from the community, what's happening, who's being a dick, etc., all that stuff. Um, and then that's going to be on Tuesdays. That's going to start on the 14th. And then Thursdays, I'm going to do Hedge and History, which is particular folk witchcraft topics and people from history that have kind of formed modern witchcraft as we know it. See how that goes. Kind of looking forward. I think it's going to be fun. We'll see. What else is going on? Next weekend, if anybody does want to uh, do the workshop, that is the Art of the Spirit Vessel, where you make a spirit box for Nakiel. Grab that if you want to. Psycat, what about Planetary Magic and Goetic course discussed last week? It's in the works. That's gonna be a long process. Planetary Magic, I am busy writing the book, which will become the material for the masterclass, but that's gonna take about a year, and then I've got to do the Goetic course one. So yeah, that's definitely a long way down the line. Um, but I'm definitely going to do those. Michael, do you find Crowley difficult to understand and comprehend? Oh, yes. LeVay seemed to think he was nonsensical. He is very difficult to understand. You know, you have to read him over and over and over again just to grasp what the meaning of something is. You also have to put it into context of era, you know, the time he was writing in and he was living in. You also have to remember he was an arsehole as well. He loved to shock people. He used that as a form of energy. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of things about Crowley that are extremely difficult to grasp. But I know a lot of stuff's a lot of bullshit. A lot of the stuff is quite profound. So you have to really, really understand it and sift through it. It's a lifetime of work, to be honest with you. Yeah. Lowton, hello, hello. Just got back from blacksmithing experience session. Oh, you bastard. Um, I made a hook. That is so cool. I would love to do that. That would be brilliant. Yeah, Turner agrees as well. Um, it was fun. I'm sure it was. I thought you would be uploading the edited parts of the workshop. I have. Um, if you're talking about okay, so there was the introduction to Planetary Magic, which was a workshop that I did last month. That one's been uploaded to Patreon. Okay. The Planetary Magic I'm talking about is a comprehensive advanced masterclass, which is going to be like it might be 8 months long, I'm not sure. 4 to 8 months long. Not just a 1 day workshop. Yeah, but that one's been uploaded. The Goetic course is going to be one of those big ones. But I do have, if you go onto my Patreon shop, I do have the video courses there for modern demonology. There's like 5 different videos. Um, if that's what you're talking about, yeah. But again, that's I'm going to form into a very comprehensive masterclass. Um, where am I? Lilith, hello Lilith. Um, Lowton, hoping to do some of the courses in future. Sounds fun, I must say. Turner, off topic, just found out Texas will now require Bible reading and lessons in public schools. It's scary. It is. Yeah, I feel for you guys, I really do. It's actually disgusting what's going on. Lowton, funny enough, I did a tarot reading a while back about what I needed in life at the moment. And the damn card art was a hammer and anvil. The card meaning being about learning new skills. There you go. I was like, okay, I'll take the hint. Yes, you absolutely have to. Yep. Alexis 2. Since you talked to Asmodeus, did you ask if the famous story of Solomon, Asmodeus, and the magical worm Shamir is true? I didn't know. I didn't ask about that. Yeah, it was a very, I wouldn't say brief interaction. It lasted about 2 weeks, but yeah, I didn't bother going into any of the history. I genuinely don't actually. When I work with these spirits, I don't bother with the mythology, man's mythology. Um, I don't think they really give a shit anyway. Don't know. So cat, those would be great. I hope so. I hope so. There is a reason you are called. Oh, God, here we go. You do have a thesaurus there, don't you? You just pick all these words out. Michael, do you have a favorite tarot deck you work with? A favorite card that resonates with you? I don't do tarot. I've never been interested in tarot. I know that sounds weird, coming out of a witch's mouth, but never been interested in tarot. I'm not a diviner. Other people love it. Uh, it's a tool for me, and that's it. So I don't really have a favorite deck or do I have a favorite card? Not really. No, I can't say I do. Castle's here. Hello, hello. All right. Lowton, you took it literally. I would say it was literal. An anvil and a hammer. Yeah, can't say that literally. Psycat, Texas can be saved if Abbott, Paxton, and their enablers are defeated this November. I hope there was a magic for that. I'm sure somebody's don't doing some stuff. Alexis Swan, what is some gnosis that you received from Spirit which intrigued you? That's going to be a difficult one. Can't I can never think of anything offhand when people ask these questions. Uh, can't think of anything. Sorry. Um, these are. I need to come up with a name for this category. You know, those questions you get. It's like being asked what you want for Christmas, and then all of a sudden you can't remember. Um, yeah, we need a name for that category of things. And also, Alexis, I can't do tarot either, but I got to say some decks are stunning and evocative. Oh yeah, no, the artwork's amazing. My problem is, I'd rather spend money on a book than a tarot deck because I'm going to get a lot more out of a book than I will a tarot deck. So yeah, that's where my money goes. Um, Losa at Turner was always something I've been interested in. So when it turned up, it wasn't subtle. True. Yeah. Castle, I hope you're well, Lee. You sound a bit under the weather. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. My throat's a bit froggy at the moment for some reason. Don't know why. But I'm good. I'm actually good. It's because I'm not drinking my coffee. I need to drink the coffee. James, asking questions with arbitrary answers that float. Johnny on the spot. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Johnny on the spot. That's quite cool, like that. Alexis, has Spirit guided you or directly asked you to buy a certain book? Johnny on the spot. There you go. Uh, can't think of any. I've been working with spirits for the past 30 something years, so it's a long time, and my memory's terrible. Um, Book equals knowledge. There you go. Yeah, that's why I'd rather get a book. I love knowledge. I really do. I just want to sort of absorb it rather than read it. It'd be quicker. Go through book by book by book. Um, Yeah, spirit has spirit guided you or directed you to buy a certain book? If we take that broadly, I would say a lot of books, because I could probably say that I've been guided by uh, spirits without even knowing it. You know, it's not like they kind of go, point out a book and go, buy that book. It may be that they want me to read a particular book and it just keeps popping up. It doesn't mean that I'm consciously aware that the spirit's guiding me to buy a book or get a particular book. It's just that they do it and I go read it. Um, so yeah, I think some of this is a bit more subtle than, them directly saying X, Y, and Z, really. So so also I sent you a follow-up mail on Saturday. Final one for the time being. Whenever you find time, try and have a look at it. Just want to make sure I got it. Let's say I seem to so much crap that comes through on emails. I do often miss people's emails. I'll just have a look for it now, just make sure I've got it. Castle, been reading and working in learning about Taoist talisman and the magic. Been interesting study this week. Sounds interesting. Oh, there you go. I missed that. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll read that later then. Um, Michael, what are your thoughts on entheogens to put you in an altered state before ritual? I think they are very useful depending on the person and depending on the um, access the person has. This is a very broad topic. To try and simplify all of that, firstly, depending on the person, some people react badly to various different substances and plants. Other people don't. It's a very personal thing. Depending on the plant, they all do different things. So, and how a plant reacts to a person is also going to differ. So this is all very personal, speculative stuff. For instance, I'm experimenting with weed at the moment, and I find that it's very difficult for me to concentrate on one thing, to have one pointed focus, because everything's just flying by at a hell of a speed. So I'm trying to find applications for it within magic that suit me. But other people, it doesn't do that too. I hallucinate on weed. Other people don't. Not the same way. I hear people's thoughts. So it's a very different reaction for me than it is for other people. Um, and then depending on access, and what I mean by that is things like ayahuasca, uh, a lot of mushrooms in many cases, but specifically things like ayahuasca, you need a guide. You can't do these journeys without a guide and a proper guide, not somebody who's taken it a few times and go, oh, I'm a master. An actual guide, somebody who has been doing it for decades, who has a very strong connection with the plant ally, um, and can take you in and bring you back, because in a lot of situations with a lot of substances, a lot of entheogens, you you're opening yourself to the divine, which can have, depending on if you've been prepared or not, can be a very negative reaction. If you have not been prepared for it, you can end up with a whole load of psychosis. Um, so yeah, it's um it's a whole big topic. You got to be very careful. You got to make sure you know what you're doing before you do it. And if you are going to be experimenting, don't just throw yourself in. Go small, start small, build yourself up, dose by dose. Find out which doses do what for you, and start really, really small. Um, Unless you've been taking it for years and years, you know. But even, you know, some people say, "Oh, I've been taking it recreationally for so long. What's the difference?" There's a huge difference. Entheogen is different to hallucinogenic. Actually, what's the definition of an entheogen? Is a psychoactive substance used to induce altered states of consciousness, derived from the Greek meaning generating the divine within. When we're talking about hallucinations, hallucinogenics, that's different to something which is connecting you to the divine. And one substance can do two things, depending on how you're taking it, which context you're taking it in. Um, it can be hallucinogenic if you're taking it on a recreational basis. It can be entheogenic if you're taking it on a spiritual basis. Those experiences are going to be completely different, totally different. Um, People kind of one of the easiest examples of this, probably one of the most dangerous examples of this as well, is datura. Um, People who take datura recreationally have the worst experiences of blood, and the Red Lady just destroys them because they are abusing her. If you have however, taken on a spiritual basis, whole different experience, and again, depending on the person. Some people can't handle the Red Lady, other people can. And those who can usually can't, which is a bit of a contradiction. It's a bit of a paradox with the Red Lady, because if she likes you, she will take you, but she strips your power, but she gives you so much at the same time. It's a weird, weird fucking relationship. Um, but those who she doesn't like, she destroys. And people who take it recreationally, she destroys. So it's a very weird fucking. It's a very personal space that you gotta really really think about what you're doing. To put it that way. All right, moving on. Psycat, which spirit is beginner friendly for clairvoyance and hearing? Uh, yeah, oh, you mean past, present, and future? Truthfully, Vasigo or Vasago, as a lot of people um, say the name. I think that's probably the one to kind of go to. It's the one that was always for a long, 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 long time. People have been saying, for clairvoyance, for for learning psychic senses and past, present, future answers, go to Vasago. Um, I think probably because it was mentioned in Paul Hewson's book, Mastering Witchcraft from the 70s. Um, that's the spirit that was mentioned in there. So because of that, I think it's always considered to be a good spirit to go to. Um, Cthulhu, Turner, not as scary as being forced as what the Quran. Now I've missed something. This always happens at some point. I missed something around. I missed something in the conversation. Oh well. Okay. Moving on then. Um, Lowton, I know of a fitness influencer who took ayahuasca. He is visibly changed in a bad way after taking it. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. As I said, even if you are prepared for it, you can be shown things that you just cannot handle. Um, and it can be devastating and destroying. So this is why I say if you're going to do something like ayahuasca, get a proper guide and make sure you've got a proper guide. You've got to be taken in and out of that journey. It's not something you do with your friends on a weekend. Sounds like peyote. Peyote as well. Yeah, that's another one I would actually suggest getting a proper guide for. Um, Lotus and Vesigo is the demon of my birthday, apparently, aside from Belphegor. So you can have parties together. There you go. Why not? I would. Elizabeth, the weed blew my mind too. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's truly mind-blowing. The QHHT session, the Dolores Cannon method. Yeah, I've heard of that. Hold on. QHHT session, the Dolores Cannon. Quantum healing hypnosis technique session. That's a new one on me. I'm gonna have to go look at. I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole. Thank you. New rabbit hole to go down. Cool. All right then. Power. Hello, Power. I was born on Feb 7th. What is my demon? My spirit demon? I don't know. I don't know. I have to go through into my books. This idea of I think there's probably just who was it that said there's Lowton. Um, no, Lowton said it's Andrew Alphus apparently. There you go, Power. There you go. And also said it's definitely not a substance to be treated recklessly. No, not at all. Lowton, is this when you're referring to the spirits in your birthdays? We're talking about the goetic spirits in relationship to what the Golden Dawn outlined as being the spirit the two spirits that line up with a particular period, which line up with the Deccan. Is that what we're talking about? Because that was just something that the Golden Dawn made up. It's got some basis to it, and it does work, but I don't think it's got anything to do with, um, you know, this is your birthday spirit or anything like that. Most possibly, I only know of the period of dates associated with them, not where the idea comes from. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about. It originated with the Golden Dawn. I do apply it to when I do spirit work, um, specific ritual that I do. Um, but it came from the Golden Dawn. And I said, hence why I said apparently, because it's not something I know too much about, just the association. Yeah, that's good. Kasim, do you think that the Goetic spirits are pagan gods or Jinn? I know some people say they are just demonized pagan gods, others say different. What's your take? So I kind of like have uh, two different takes on this. One is that they are Jinn, and that's it. Are they the pagan gods? Not necessarily. Um, for instance, Is Astaroth from the Ars Goetia the goddess Astarte? No. I believe that the Goetic spirits are jinn, and just like humans are given god names, um, or names of people from the Bible and all of that stuff. Jinn, same thing. They gave their children names which were gods in order to bestow them with powers and whatnot. Are they necessarily the same spirit? No, I don't think so. The other side of that is that I don't think the spirits in the Ars Goetia are the names that we find in the grimoire are the same names that the person who wrote that grimoire were actually working with. I think they're placeholders to hide the names, to hide the true names that magician was given by the spirits themselves. And the Ars Goetia is a combination of various different grimoires. So picture it like this. I am the magician that is working with spirits, and I'm writing them down in my grimoire. Okay, I am given a particular name, and when I write it down, I want to keep that name a secret because it's between me and the spirit, and therefore I use a placeholder. So I use something which is referenced quite often from other grimoires, other names, right? And then I make my grimoire. I, I categorize all the spirits, what they're for, give all the directions and stuff, and that's my grimoire. Um, it may not have had any intention of publishing it, but at some point in history, somebody finds it and they publish it, and it becomes public. And then we have all of these names, 72 names of spirits that people think is the spirit that this original magician worked with, but they're not. And therefore, what's happened is we have over hundreds of years have created egregores. It doesn't mean that they're not powerful. Every time I say egregore, someone who says no, egregores aren't powerful. No, egregores are very powerful. We have put enough energy and will into these spirits. We've created them, but they've become their own forms that we have created, and they have power. Definitely have a lot of power behind them. And that is kind of like that's my latest um, interpretation of what the Goetic spirits are, and other grimoires as well. I generally tend to work very much with the Goetic spirits, and don't really work with the other grimoires much at all. So that's where I always come back to the Goetic. But yeah, that's my take. Is that the original magician sat down and probably worked with King Solomon as well, as the mighty dead, to come up to formulate this method that they were using to contact the spirits that King Solomon probably contacted as well. But through that experience was given a personal name, because that's what happens when we usually contact a spirit. We're given a name by the spirit to call them by, and it's a name only you know, so that when you go back to them, you can ask them what that name is, and they'll give it to you. You know you're working with that spirit and not some parasitic or imposter spirit, um, because it's only the two of you that know that name. So each person gets a different name. You don't write that down. That's a secret thing. Well, you can write it down, obviously, but it's supposed to be a secret thing. Um, so yeah, that's my latest. That's what I think has happened with the grimoires, personally. All right, Psycat, thank you for Dr. Jupiter Johnson. Uh, if one wants to, I have to tell you why I don't like the doctor thing. Um, yeah, I can talk about it. So my ex-wife, after we got divorced, um, she decided to become a doctor. And when I say decided to become a doctor, she forged and got other people to forge a load of documentation, degrees, everything else, to say that she was a doctor of psychology, specifically child psychology, so she could get jobs. Um, and it was all a load of bullshit. She was not a doctor. It was all fraudulent. And so I would never ever want to be called a doctor. Okay. It has a very bad taste. Yeah, right. So now that that's out of the way, if one wants to remove particular planetary afflictions in the birth chart, should one opt for that planet's spirit or Saturn? Since Saturn removes or banishes, you're going to have to speak to an astrologer about that one. That's a very particular astrological question that I have no idea about. Um, yeah, that's a very um, astrological question. I don't know if anybody else is answering it, but I wouldn't even want to try and guess that one. Um, Lotus Pluto would be better for overcoming limitations or obstacles, I think. Yeah. Look, if it's something in your life that you want to control, and you can use the planetary influences and stuff to do that, but if it's something specific to your birth chart, you're no longer doing planetary magic anymore. That's astrological magic, stellar magic. And I do planetary magic. I don't do astrological magic. They're very different things. Okay. And I think the with for well, I know the reason for it. Um, they've become intermingled. This idea of planetary magic and astrological magic have become intermingled, and people seem to think they're the same thing. They're not, which is why I'm doing this whole planetary magic course, because I want people to be aware of what planetary magic is, and it's not astrological magic. So if it's particular to your birth chart, that's going to have a whole load of different impacts from different influences from different planets, and where they're aligned with your own birth chart, or a whole load of other stuff. It's not just simply, can I use this planet to counter this planet? It it depends on your personal birth chart, and that's going to be different for every single person. Okay, so very much astrologically based. All right. Um, and Michael said, I've heard magicians talk about Saturnian law. Briefly, what is your understanding of Saturnian law? Depends on what they're talking about. It's not a term I use myself. My best guess would probably be in relation to setting boundaries, organization, uh, the aspects that Saturn influences or encompasses would be the law, what that is Saturn's sphere of influence. That would be my best guess, what they're talking about there. Lotus Pluto is planet of change and evolution. Saturn is more the planet of boundaries and limitations themselves rather than overcoming them. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Pluto and Saturn are both related to death as well, but Saturn tends to be more along the lines of the process of death, whereas Pluto is kind of like the other world, Hades itself, um, the place of death, that kind of thing. Lotan, you have to be careful when it comes to the source of some of these spirits as well. The Dictionary Infernal or Malleus Maleficarum, one of them at least has a demon Kali, for example, who is just an outright demonization and bastardization of the goddess Kali. Oh yeah, it's probably the Malleus. Can't remember if there's any spirit specifically mentioned in Malleus Maleficarum besides the devil. But yeah, I know. You'll definitely get that. Also, a lot of people think like the Kali Yuga, for instance, or there's a specific application that people use of the word Kali, but it's not the goddess Kali. It's the actual word that means time. But then everybody thinks that it's that. But that's actually a very kind of negative, demonized kind of aspect, and rightly so. It's just the nature of what it is specifically. I can't remember exactly what it is, but yeah, names and words and stuff get a bit mixed up here and there. Elizabeth, Nineveh Shadrach also mentions this in an interview. The Jinn are the same beings, known by different names in other cultures. Yeah. Nineveh Shadrach's excellent. I do like him. Um, I was thinking of taking some of his courses at some stage, but they're a bit bloody expensive for me in South Africa. So I need to be rich. I need lots and lots of people to buy all my courses so I can get rich and I can go buy other people's courses and learn more. And the cycle continues. Yes. Um, but yeah, no, I don't remember him saying that, but yeah, I could imagine him saying something like that. Psycat, I will avoid Doctor. Okay, yeah. From now on, it will be Mega Master and Overlord. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that, yes. Um, Elizabeth, wait, I think it was S. Ben Cayenne. Oh, I hope not. Same energy, different name. That's the thing. I don't like S. Ben Cayenne myself. We had a difficult past. Let's just leave it at that. Sappho. There's a lot of baggage that comes with being called a doctor that I wouldn't want. No thanks. Hello, Sappho. How you doing? Hope you had a good week. Um, Psycat. Also, is there an intermediate spirit for the Goetia, uh, like there is Skirlin for Verum spirits? There isn't actually. I would actually use Skirlin myself. When you're working, it's the same kind of current. It is and it isn't because technically the Grimorium Verum isn't actually a Solomonic text. Um, Technically, some people don't consider it anyway. But yeah, I would actually work with Skirlin as the intermediary, or if you already have a particular intermediary you work with, like your Holy Guardian Angel. And as I said, I think I was saying last week that I think this is why so many people are coming to Hecate over the past decade or so, is because we need that intermediary spirit, but it seems to be missing from the teaching. So people aren't aware that they need an intermediary spirit in order to, contact other spirits and divine and things like that. So we then find a spirit which is an intermediary spirit because it's a natural process that we reach out for. And Hecate is very much that liminal being. In fact, I was watching somebody the other day. I can't remember who it was. I do vaguely remember who it was now, but she was talking about an older understanding of Hecate as not necessarily being a goddess, but being the actual liminality between spaces, the actual liminality itself, which I thought was really interesting. Um, so yeah, I think everybody has that natural need to reach out to an intermediary spirit, not realizing that that's what they're doing. Um, that's just a personal opinion of mine, anyway. But yeah, so if you have a spirit that you reach out to as that particular form, go to that spirit. If you don't, I would say just suggest using Skirlin. Um, all right, Turner. Oh wait, Sappho said thinking outside the box. We try. We try. Try and do it all the time. Yes. Um, Turner, was your ex able to work with children as a fake doctor? That sounds rather predatory. She was, yes. It was, as I say, um, uh, Doctor of some was it early childhood development, something psychology. Um, yeah, she got fired from a few jobs because they found out that it was all fake. She got arrested apparently. I don't know. I never kept up with it. I didn't want to keep up with it. I didn't speak to her after we got divorced much. Um, Michael, how do you know if you've picked up a demonic parasite? What exactly is a demonic parasite? I've heard that term used among demonologists. I wouldn't call it a demonic parasite. It's just a parasitic energy. The old Romans called them larvae. Um, had a very specific name, Roman name, but it's basically larvae. So a parasitic energy or a parasitic entity is basically that. It's a parasite. It attaches itself to you in order to feed from your energy. That's how it stays alive. Um, what generally tends to happen is we pick them up all the time. I mean, on a daily basis, which is why we do cleansing work. So as I say, we clean ourselves physically. We should be cleaning ourselves energetically at the same time. Um, but we pick them up all the time. It ranges. There's a lot of different types of parasites that we can pick up. Some are severe, some are not severe. Usually not severe. Um, you know, and it can be just walking past somebody who has negative thoughts or something like that, and they've created this kind of negative sludge, negative energy around them. You brush past them, you pick it up. It's like a sticky energy. Um, and, so it can be that kind of thing. It can be your own thoughts, your own negative thoughts, low vibrational thoughts and energies that you're working with, and kind of put you into that space, into that mind frame that you generate. It could be the hungry dead. It could be parasitic entities from different dimensions that come through. Doors and gates and portals and stuff open, and these things come through, and they have all these different forms and weird. Ugh, they're gross sometimes. They're just bodies of smoke other times, you know. But yeah, they're just something we deal with. You make sure you keep up your cleansing. You keep up your foundational practices, and you just carry on with life. You know. Um, but no, sorry, you did ask how do you know if you've picked one up? If you, as I said, it's usually a general thing. We pick them up, we clean them. We pick them up, we clean them. There's nothing really, fantastic about that. But if you have picked up a particular one which has latched on and has managed to start to form some kind of bond or relationship with you, then you'll start to notice things changing. You may start having communication with it. This often happens when somebody isn't doing their discernment when they're working with any kind of god or spirit. They call on this being, the being comes through, they don't discern, they don't test, they just carry on, and they're very new to all of this. They don't know what anything is and feels like, and it happens to be a parasite that was floating by and kind of caught this radio wave and went, whoop, let's have a chat with this person who doesn't really know what they're doing. And then a relationship starts to form and a relationship starts to build. And they give you things. You ask for more money or love or something like that, and they'll give it to you because it builds trust. And if you can trust the spirit, you can then give them what they want. And then they start off small. It's like a narcissistic relationship, really. They start off small and they're kind of like, maybe cut yourself. Not just a pinprick, but maybe just a slice of your hand or something like that, so I can get more blood. You know, and it it creates some fear, but that's okay because the spirit asked and they gave you something, right? So why not? Let's just do that. And then all of a sudden it becomes, cutting yourself on a regular basis. It becomes depression, it becomes anxiety, it becomes fear based. And the more fear that they can create, the more energy they can feed from. They will start to isolate you from your friends and family. They will tell you not just to harm yourself, it eventually gets to the point where they're telling you to harm other people, to do things that you find immoral and illegal. That's when it really has set in. And to get rid of those becomes extremely difficult. It's a huge process, it's a massive fight, and it can last a long time. So don't try and get to that point. Make sure you're doing your testing and discernment, just to make sure everything's up and kosher and everything else. All right, I better rush through the rest of this because we're going to finish just now. Lotan, there's two Kalis essentially. One is a demon, the other is the goddess. The goddess is the goddess of time, death, destruction, dissolution, but in a benefic, if harsh and strict way. The other Kali is just a demon who was called that due to the meaning of black. Yeah, I don't really like that idea. I think that feels very racist, to be honest with you. um, it's actually that actually, to tell you the truth, reminds me of Blavatsky. Because yeah, it was Blavatsky who was carrying on about these Indian people who work with Kali and they are disgusting and they're base and they're savage. That's one of the words. I hate that word savage to explain a indigenous group of people. But that was kind of Kali that she was talking about. I'm sorry, you also went there, but the Kali of that book is based on the goddess due to having caricatures of her iconography like her skull golem. Okay, I'll have to go look for that actually. Uh, yeah, I'll remember that one. Right. Mary, hello Mary. Feeling lower back sensation after working with Asmodeus. Could that be my Kundalini? It could be, yes. You'll find that Asmodeus does have, I mean, Asmodeus is notably a lust demon. Um, and what you could be happening is it's incited the energy in the pelvic area. Um, when we kind of speak about Asmodeus being a lust demon, everybody's like, oh, it's all about sex and stuff. Not necessarily. It can be. But that lust is about the energy, it's about the power that Asmodeus kind of embodies. And that is often felt through the pelvic area, through the sexual organs and everything else, because that's where the energy starts to stir. And yes, it could be your Kundalini, because the energy is starting to stir in your pelvic area. If you continue to work on that basis, you start to raise the energy slowly. I'm emphasizing slowly. Don't allow it to shoot up, because if you do, you could have some blockages that you're going to blow through, which is going to cause major problems, right? When you're working with Kundalini energy, you do it slowly, step by step, right? And it can take months and years. It should actually take years properly to go through the whole thing. So yes, it could just be that stirring that is happening in your pelvic area that you're feeling there. Jersey, I think it's time to enter my Jester arc, Trickster archetype. Yeah, that's a good archetype to enter. No, it's not moving. Oh, here we go. Oh, God, I better get through these quickly. Got 5 minutes left and I must disappear. Sappho, those are typically your psychopomps, I believe, but they don't have to be one. What we were talking about now? I'm not sure what that was in connection with. Sorry. Lysa, well, good to hear she got caught at least. Oh, the ex, yeah. Oh, she's dead now, so. Um, yeah. Tree can be one. It's up to you. Mileage may vary. Yeah, I've lost that discussion. Sorry about that. Elizabeth, difficult past. Got it. Yeah, yeah. Well, we've all left difficult past. So, Kat, thank you so much. We'll send a gentle reminder, follow-up mail tomorrow. I am aware you have a lot on your plate. Thank you very much. That's a pleasure. Kasuda, you're correct about Kali. Kali Yuga is not our Kali. No, no, definitely not. Totally different things. Lotion, I know the word Kali itself means black time and death. The use of black is because it has particular connotations in Hindu, such as the void state creation came from, which is also where Kali gets her role as a mother goddess. Yeah. Sappho, the great deal of lore behind the way Kali looks. Please don't toss that all away. I hope not. No, I wouldn't toss it away. Um, Oh, intermediary spirits in relation to psychopomps. No, not necessarily. So psychopomps are spirits which aid the dead. When we're talking about intermediary spirits, we're talking about a spirit between ourselves and the divine. What the ancient Sumerians would have called the Sukal. Um, so it's kind of like an intermediary or a liminal spirit. So, like in the Grimorium Verum, for instance, you go to Skirlin, and then you go to one of the three main ones, which is Lucifer, Asmodeus, or Beelzebub, and then you speak to the spirit you want to speak to, whichever whichever one they fall under. So that's kind of like the intermediary spirit we're talking about. The truth, hello. So you just pulled a question. I am going to disappear in a couple minutes, but I will be on again next week. Let me just get through the rest of these comments. Lowton said, "The darkness with which everything came, and to which everything will return, came from." Yep. Elizabeth, it is as Arthur Morris said, blood makes a lot of noise in the spiritual world. I like that. Yeah, be careful with that. Yeah, absolutely. Loads black is a pretty sacred color amongst her followers for that reason. Sappho, Kali has done so much for me because I've worked with her. That's a wonderful goddess, really is. Mary, what is the best demon for shielding? I would say yourself, to be honest with you. I wouldn't. I don't think there is any particular spirit or demon to call for that particular work. I would say yourself, your own holy guardian angel. You can create your own servitor to do that particular work. But shielding, I would just rely on yourself. You have the power to do that. You don't need to give that power to anything or anybody else. All right. Richard, good night. Cheerio. See you next week. Kasim, Kaylee, it was a great chat. It was. Enjoyed this chat. See you soon. Have a good one. You too. Have a good one. See you next week. Cthulhu, peace out. Great chat. Thank you. Thank you. The truth in Negotia. All of them are kind of like intermediaries for each other. Kind of. It's more like a team. Um, and they're more phonic spirits than they would be like celestial, so or divine. Yeah, just want to classify all of this stuff. So yeah, kind of in a way they. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, you look at the Grimorium Verum. It does work in that particular fashion when you have the Skurlin, which is the intermediary spirit, before you get into the other demons. So, if you relate that to what the Goetia is, it's kind of the same thing. In the Goetia, you have the four kings. That you, it doesn't really get emphasized, but the idea is you actually call the four kings, and then you call the spirit, one of the 72 spirits that you want to work with, and they all fall under one of the four kings type of thing. Just, yeah, as I said, just doesn't get emphasized the same way it does in Grimorium Verum. So yeah, different different people working different ways, I suppose. Castle, blessed be you too. Turner, you guys all unleash Discord. We should talk there. Yeah, I do read the Discord stuff. I don't really interact much, unless I feel I need to. So, but you guys carry on. He has a Discord. You want me to drop a? Let me just grab the link for you. Although I think most people have gone now, haven't they? That's okay. Loton, if you're still on, just let me know. Right. Invite to server. Copy. All right, this is going to be valid for, I think it's 7 days. There you go. Right. Okay, thank you, everybody. Why is that not going away? Go away. There you go. I see Rahab just, who's Rahab? Just joined. Okay. I'm going to go. All right, thank you. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, Loton. Bye, everybody. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Is that you? Okay, cool stuff.